Commerce Alive Today presents
Cons. Cons traces its history to 1890 when Edward Eastham founded Eastham Plumbing and Heat Company in Beaumont, Texas. After the Republic of Texas was formed, years before it became part of the United States, Beaumont in 1838 was designated a county seat, which ensured local prominence. At the start of the 20th century, the city, located between Houston and the Louisiana border, boasted 4 railroads and a population approaching 10,000. Then, in 1901, oil was discovered in the vicinity, leading to a rapid increase in Beaumont's population, which doubled within 10 years and increased to 58,000 by 1930. Eastham Plumbing and Heating grew with the town, but in 1931, in the midst of the Depression, the business failed. It was taken over by the First National Bank of Beaumont and renamed Plumbing and Heating Incorporated. The company soon came into the hands of an area oil baron who essentially bought the business to make sure he had an available plumber, after a recent cold snap had burst his pipes and he had been unable to get someone to do the repair work. In 1933, C.W. Conn, Sr., who had been selling appliances for an area gas company, was hired to run plumbing and heating with an option to buy it. A year later he exercised the option, bought the company, and renamed it Conn Plumbing and Heating Company. In 1937 he began the transition away from plumbing and heating when he started selling refrigerators, soon adding gas ranges. By the end of the decade, he was selling his wares out of a downtown Beaumont storefront. C.W. Conn would be joined by his son, C.W. Conn Jr., who as early as the age of 3 earned $1 for cleaning out a bathtub at the store. After he grew up, in 1953, he went to work at the store on a full-time basis. It was during this period that Conn's present-day chief executive and chairman, Thomas J. Frank, Sr., and his family began their association with the company. His father, John J. Frank Jr., first went to work for Conn's in 1956, taking a job as a salesman on the floor. He was in his late 30s at the time, and some 50 years later, when he was well into his 80s, would still be employed by the company selling trade-in appliances and doing some customer relations work. His son started out working at Conn's in 1957 when he was a high school junior, serving as a delivery truck helper. He would go on to college at Sam Houston State University, earning a degree in industrial arts and later taking graduate courses at Texas A&M University and Harvard University. Tom Frank began his full-time career at Conn's in the early 1960s and alongside C.W. Conn Jr., would play an instrumental role in growing the Beaumont appliance store into a major regional chain. During his ascent to the top, Frank held key positions in all areas of the organization, involved in distribution, service, credit, information technology, accounting, and general operations. He became a member of the board of directors in 1980. C.W. Conn Jr. succeeded his father as the head of the business and took it to an entirely new level. A second store, also in Beaumont, was not added until 1959. During the baby boom years of the 1950s, the town was growing at a fast clip and able to support a second location. The population increased from 94,000 in 1950 to nearly 120,000 10 years later. The site for the second Conn appliance store was considered remote at the time, located in the rural outskirts of Beaumont. In fact, the store was set up in an old dairy barn that was converted by laying down a cement floor. The younger Conn also was responsible for launching a credit operation. Offering financing to customers was a key element in the retailer's growth. Conn's added 2 more stores in Beaumont by 1966 and at this stage was generating annual sales of $4 million. The next step for the small chain was to expand into the so-called Golden Triangle region that extended from southeastern Texas into the southwestern part of Louisiana. In 1969, Conn's opened its first 2 Louisiana stores. Additional stores were added in 1975, in Port Arthur, Orange, and Baytown, Texas, and Lafayette, Louisiana. In short order, a second Lafayette location was opened, as well as stores in Opelousas, Louisiana. Also in 1975, C.W. Conn, Sr. died and was replaced as chairman by his namesake. In 1983, the emerging appliance chain would expand westward to the Houston market. It was not the best of times to do business in a city very much dependent on the oil business. Plummeting commodity prices crippled the industry, bankrupting a large number of companies and resulting in the loss of many jobs and a reduction in the number of people looking to buy new televisions and washing machines. But the retailer persevered until conditions improved, so that Houston with 18 units would eventually enjoy the greatest concentration of Conn appliance stores in the chain's area of operations. Conn's expanded into San Antonio in 1993, the same year that the company cracked the $100 million mark in revenues. But Conn's had now reached a key moment. Management concluded that it had to reposition the chain if it were to realize even greater growth. Tom Frank succeeded C.W. Conn Jr. as CEO and chairman, and new talent was added to the management team, including David R. Atnip, who took over as chief financial officer. William C. Millen Jr. would become president and chief operating officer in 1995, and Frank's brother, C. William Frank, also would join the company, taking over as CFO while Atnip became secretary/treasurer of the company. In addition, Conn's made the investments necessary to upgrade its infrastructure and took steps to refine its operating strategy. Also, in 1994 Conn's moved into another Texas market, opening its first store in the San Antonio/Austin area. All told, by the end of fiscal 1994 the chain totaled 21 stores. Despite the changes made, between fiscal 1994 and fiscal 1999, Conn's added only another 5 stores, but operating margins improved from 5.3% to 8.7%. The chain reached $200 million in annual sales volume in 1999. The chain would now begin an accelerated rate of expansion, due in large part to new ownership, which possessed the financial resources to grow the business. In 1998 the Arkansas-based Stevens family and its business interests bought a controlling interest in the chain from the Conn family. The Stevens family ran a major regional investment banking firm, which had fallen out of step with the way investment banking was being conducted in the 1990s. It was now actively looking for opportunities with small and mid-sized companies such as Conn's. Stevens Incorporated was founded by Wilton R. Stevens in 1933 to broker cheap Arkansas highway bonds hurt by the Depression, which his father, a state legislator, convinced him the state would eventually honor. When the economy recovered during the early 1940s, spurred by the military spending of World War II, the bonds were paid off at par and Stevens was well positioned to grow into an important regional banking firm, one that followed in the tradition of merchant banks, in which relationships between gentlemen were as important in landing business as the strength of a firm's balance sheet. Whit Stevens' brother, Jackson, joined the firm in 1946 and 10 years later became an equal partner and took over as CEO. He headed the firm for the next 30 years, growing it into what many regarded as the premier regional investment banking firm in the country, and 15th largest in the industry. Jack Stevens took full advantage of his connections with Arkansas's business elite, including Don Tyson of Tyson Foods Incorporated and Sam Walton of Wal-Mart fame. After he retired in 1986 and was succeeded by his son Warren, the firm continued to play an influential role in Arkansas business and politics, but it began to lose its edge in the wider arena. Such major Wall Street firms as Merrill Lynch and Morgan Stanley Dean Witter began invading Stevens' traditional turf, and the Arkansas firm was slow to take up the challenge and adapt to changing conditions. The result was that business dried up, the firm was afforded few opportunities to underwrite stock offerings, and Stevens slipped to the 80th spot in terms of size. Finally, in the late 1990s, Stevens hired a roster of new investment bankers, analysts, and salespeople to drum up opportunities, one of which was the purchase of a regional appliance store chain. Over the next 5 years, Conn's management team and Stevens grew the retailer in preparation of taking the company public and realizing a profit for the investment banker. The chain moved into the Baton Rouge, Louisiana, market in 1999. It added more warehouse space and in 2000 thought about moving its headquarters to Houston, where it operated its largest number of stores and maintained a distribution center. Beaumont city officials as well as the Chamber of Commerce convinced the company to stay. Conn's acquired a former supermarket and converted it into a new corporate center, remodeling some 66,000 square feet for credit, customer service, and administrative offices. Subsequently, the company remodeled another 18,000 square feet to create a new parts distribution center. In addition, Conn's opened a new store close by to replace the chain's second location. It would also be used to help in some aspects of employee training, all the operations of which would now be moved to Beaumont. The chain then opened its first stores in Austin and Corpus Christi in 2002. In fiscal 1999, which ended July 31st of that year, Conn's recorded sales of $236.7 million and net income of nearly $9 million. With the addition of new stores, the chain improved revenues to $279.7 million in fiscal 2000 and $330.3 million a year later. Net income during this period improved from $12.6 million to more than $15 million. The company then changed its fiscal year to end on January 31st of the ensuing year. Thus, in fiscal 2002, ending January 2003, Conn saw its revenues increase to $382.1 million and net income approach $20 million. Also in January 2003, Conn's Incorporated was incorporated in Delaware in preparation of taking the appliance chain public. An initial offering of stock, priced at $14 per share, was completed in December 2003, underwritten in part by Stephens Incorporated. The proceeds were earmarked to pay down debt by nearly $35 million as well as for future growth. At the time of the offering, Conn's was operating 42 stores. Markets the chain hoped to penetrate over the next several years included the Dallas-Fort Worth area and the Texas-Mexican border region of the Rio Grande Valley in southwest Texas. In Louisiana, Conn's targeted New Orleans as well as Shreveport, Monroe, and Alexandria in central Louisiana. In addition, Conn's intended to expand its market presence in areas where it already operated stores. Conn's Incorporated became a publicly traded company on November 25, 2003, when it sold 4.6 million shares in its initial public offering. The company's shares are traded on the NASDAQ exchange under the symbol Connecticut today. In addition to appliances, electronics, furniture and mattresses, the company offers its customer service, distribution, financing, insurance, and other related services. In 2012, Conn's expanded into Arizona with a location in Tucson, Arizona, and later in July, they expanded to the Phoenix area with the opened a location in Mesa, Arizona. In 2014, they welcomed new states as Colorado, Tennessee, South Carolina, and Mississippi. The company now has 125 retail locations ranging in a variety of states coast to coast. On July 3, 2014, Conn's was featured in the New York Times in the biweekly column called The Haggler. The article sparked a social media backlash, concentrated around the hashtag #TalkTothyHaggler. A follow-up column, continuing the critique of the company's customer service, was printed on July 19. On November 9, 2014, the Haggler column reported that Conn's did not return inquiries about its alleged practices of offering credit to high-risk customers, a lawsuit over which is currently underway. Haggler columnist David Siegel reported as follows: bonuses for the company's chief executive, Theodore M. Wright, its chief operating officer, Michael J. Poppe, and its chief financial officer, Brian E. Taylor. Named defendants in the suit were largely tied to the company's operating income. Wright's maximum bonus of $850,000 would be achieved if Conn's booked $165.8 million in operating income in 2014, according to the suit. The company came close, with $162 million. Mr. Wright took home a $820,000 bonus. The complaint also states that both he and Mr. Poppe also sold shares of Conn's in 2013, the period when the plaintiffs maintained that those shares were artificially inflated. Mr. Wright had not sold any shares since 2007. In 2013, he sold enough to yield $1.9 million. Mr. Poppe cashed out $2.6 million the same year. In this way, top executives at Conn's benefited from the credit for all strategy, with big bonuses and well-timed stock sales. Operated stores. On December 18, 2023, Conn's bought W.S. Badcock, another home goods retailer that operates in the southeast U.S. under the Badcock Home Furniture and More name. That purchase increased the company's total retail footprint to more than 500 stores among the two brands. In July 2024, Conn's warned that it may file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection within the coming weeks, blaming inflation and a decline in sales as part of the decision. Officials confirmed that the decision is not final and may be subject to change in the future. On July 23, 2024, Conn's Furniture has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy and is closing 73 of its 170 stores plus 35 Badcock stores. Florida is the most affected state with 18 stores soon shutting down, followed by Texas with 9 locations. Other states where stores are closing include Arizona, Colorado, North Carolina, and Virginia. The Texas-based company, which filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection in Texas on Tuesday, has been struggling with slumping sales amid a broader slowdown in discretionary spending among consumers. The company also blamed its purchase in Badcock as a result of mass losses and struggles. Conn's has assets and liabilities worth between $1 billion to $10 billion, according to the filing. On July 26, 2024, B. Riley Retail Solutions, LLC is managing the Chapter 11 bankruptcy liquidation event at 550-plus stores across all 15 states that have Conn's and Badcock and more locations, in which all locations will be liquidated and closed. This also include online and on their website. Store furnishings, fixtures, and equipment are also available for sale, meaning they will be winding down and closing all of its locations, with liquidation sales expected to be complete by October 31, 2024. This will end the retailer from the retail landscape forever.
Honey, were you just financing over there?
Whoa, there's no interest here, just financing.
And you finance him even after you saw how little he's working with?
Oh yeah. I'll finance him and you right here, right now.
Well then, you want to finance us on that bedroom set over there?
Of course. Finance isn't a bad word here at Conn's. We have payment options for everyone.
Thank you.
Okay.
Finance is not a bad word at Conn's.
If you have any fond memories, please indicate it at the comments below. Thanks for watching, subscribe, and like.